Welcome, welcome, welcome. Today, my name is Edna White. I am going to be doing a Home Buyers 101, workshop for you. It's also going to be recorded also to YouTube. So for those that are not able to make it here today, I will have it available. So we were going to do question and answers before get started. So I thought maybe I'd just go through the process and spend some time on the home buying process itself. Well, home buying um, is really something that puts interest into interest and equity into you, and it's very important for those who have that in their plan, in their life goals to own a house or to purchase a house or purchase an investment property or to invest in real estate as a stock. It's really something that you yourself should put into a plan. It should be planned. It should be something that you have to work on for some time. Um, so home buying readiness is to find out, are you ready to buy a house? Are you in a position that you can buy a house? Are you, has it been determined or kind of set as a goal? This is what I want to do, or this is what we want to do, or am I doing it for an investment purpose? Am I doing it to stay, to have my own home? Am I doing it to invest later on for future um, plans? So it's a big step, and it takes lots of responsibility, and you have to be ready for that. You have to be ready for the responsibility, because at the end of this all, it's going to be your home after 30 years. So you want to be not wondering, should I stay or should I go, or all of those things. You want to know that. So you want to be ready. You want to make sure that you are ready, and it's a decision that you decide to do, and it's a very sound investment. So it's not raking coals over your savings account. It's not emptying and everything that you don't have something to fall back on. It's really something that you really have to be prepared for, and I suggest talking it over with a financial advisor. There are benefits to owning a house. There are benefits to investing in a house. There's pros and cons in both of those, and also investing in real estate stock. It's all pros and cons, so you have to be ready for that. Um, now, now you want to be financially ready. Now that your mind is kind of set and you're ready to do that, we want to now be financially ready. How do we become financially ready? We ask ourselves, what can I afford? So that's going to be the share of your financial responsibility, is what you can afford. The payments or the money that comes out from you or any income that you have is your financial responsibility. Okay, so when you sign those documents, that's your financial responsibility for the remainder of the time. So it's not like you can say, well, Peter didn't pay me if I was renting the, you can't really say that. This is your financial responsibility. So that's why always step one is, are you ready to buy? And step two is, what can I afford? Now, being that buying a house includes a mortgage, taxes, routine maintenance, sometimes homeowners association fees, and did I say insurance? Insurance. And if you're smart about buying your house, you'll also get a warranty, which could possibly save you thousands down the road, because you really don't know the history of the house as well as it's revealed to you. If the cesspool is used over the maximum amount of times, it could actually happen that once you buy the house, the cesspools go in. And warranty is a very important thing to have, because all you have to do is pay the deductible, and then everything else is covered. So you want to have those things. See, those are all financial pieces of the puzzle towards owning a home. So you want to be ready to buy. You want to be ready to buy. So now you get to, your financial part, what it entails. Now, how much house can I have? So Most mortgage companies will deduce the first part of you getting a mortgage would be whatever your annual income is with everything that you have. So if it's just you and you have 3 or 4 streams of income, you put that together, you make a total. If you or your husband or your wife or your significant other and yourself, you're coming together, or your cousin, your uncle, and you are coming together to buy a house, then you're going to want to look at all of everyone's income together. So now you come up with that number, all right, and then the mortgage company will create a criteria, which is times 3.5%. I'm sorry, no, sorry, 3.5. Forget this percent. That's for calculating the mortgage. They will do your income. So if your income is 100,000 a year, okay, with everybody, let's just say everybody's 100,000 a year. So that's times 3.5. So 3 times, which is 300, and then the 5%. So you're talking about 350. They will loan you $350,000. Okay, and that's usually the calculation to figure out how much house, not what you can afford, but how much house you're going to be given. So if you're making 20,000, they're only going to do that times 3, which is 65, or in that area, 65 to 70,000. They're only going to give you that. So it's 3.5%, 3.5 times your income. Sorry. So let's go back to your financial credit worthiness. How much of a mortgage can you do? Okay. So the financial readiness part, you have to be ready to be credit worthy, which means that you have to have paid all your debts on time and not have too many debts. Which means also that that you've kept a good eye on your credit and you haven't moved around too much, and you are at the same job, or you're not let people just like inquire on your credit. You have a handle on your credit worthiness, and you know that you're ready to get a mortgage. Okay, you've done all the work that you have to do to kind of get that together, and you've done that, and you're now in a place that you can get a mortgage. That may mean if you have some credit issues on your credit report, or bad marks on your credit report, that may mean that you have to start working on that. Going through that credit report yourself, really gleaning through it and making sure that your name is spelled correctly, that your name is not with a comma where there should be no comma, that your first name is not attached to someone else's last name, or that your names are put together, because those things kind of make a difference altogether. So you want it to be a clean report, meaning if they put your name there on the top in the personal section, like they did once with me, is they put my names together. So it's Edna J. White, they put it all together. That's not really my name. My name has spaces in them. So I asked them to remove that. The other one was, it was switched around, and the last name was the first name, and I had to correct that too. So all those things make a big difference, because it makes it seem that you are on top of what you're doing, and you want to maintain that credit worthiness all the way through your life. So you're always watching it. You always are caring for it. So that's one part of it, okay? And then the ability to come up with a down payment. Now, FHA is a mortgage for first-time home buyers who just come out the gate, don't know anything about mortgages. They can do 3% down, and then we can go from 3% conventional way to 5, 10, 20%, and then 20% to I think about 40% is investor. So if this is not your first house, it's your second house, this will be considered an investment. So you have to come up with $20,000 to $40,000. I'm sorry, 20 to 40%. Sorry, excuse me, 20 to 40%. I don't know where I'm getting this from, but 20 to 40% of the mortgage. So in the beginning, we said it was 350. So 20% of that 350 is what your down payment is got to be like in your bank account. In your bank account, or being gifted to you from somebody who's in your family, being gifted to you from, just from a 501k, being gifted from a retirement account. Those things can be gifted too. But normally, when I'm working with buyers, they're first time home buyers, and they have to have that 3% in there. It used to be 30 days, it had to be seasoned. I'm understanding it's 90 days now. It has to be in there, 90 days long. So if you're responsible for 3%, it has to be in the bank. 90 days now. Okay, and that's what they call, I think it's called curing. Okay, that's your ability to be credit worthy, and those are the things you have to watch out for. The final thing is your personal monthly budget and how you safely can dedicate a home related to those expenses. So if you have your sheet, your budget sheet, and you're budgeting out everything on there, where the rent should be is where your mortgage should be. So you want to say, can this mortgage payment fit in my budget? And normally with a strategy or a plan for home buying, people sit down and they say, this is what we want our mortgage to be. We want it to be between 1,500 and 1,600 because that's what we're paying now. So we don't want to go more than what we pay now. We want to stay at where we're paying now comfortably, to say that we can come up with the money with no issues and no problems should someone get sick. That's what we want to say. Should I have to make an apartment on the side of my house to help while I'm sick or while my spouse is sick? So those are some of the things you want to be thinking about and questioning yourself about. So going back to credit worthiness, you want to ask yourself, how good is my credit? One thing that is daunting to landlords, to me, to financial and mortgage professionals, is that you don't know your credit score. In these days and times, with internet available, you say you don't know. It's bad or good. There's no such as bad or good. They usually go by numbers. It's not a scale of bad or good. And then also there's different types of credit. So where you would get a credit card, you wouldn't be you could get a credit card, you're viable for a mortgage or car. Where you would be viable for a car, you might not be viable for a mortgage. It all depends. They all have their weight and measures. So you have to understand all credit's not the same, and it's not all judged by the same system. Okay, because the mortgage company does a tri-merge, and then so does the car companies, but it's under another kind of grading system. So it's different numbers. If you've ever looked at your when you went to go buy a car, if you ever looked at the information on there, you always had these weird numbers like 876, or you always had those weird numbers. That's a different type of system that shows for just cars. So you want to ask yourself that. What is my banking or my mortgage institution? What can they do for me? How can they turn my life or what I have into a loan? So you want to answer those questions. How much home can I comfortably afford? We can afford things, but we do without other things. We want to be able to afford, a home or renting, and then have all the other things in place to be comfortable. So that's always the strategy in your mind that you want to have. You don't want to just I want to buy a house and not may have a monthly budget, not have a monthly goal. And then also owning a house, you have to have a goal. Okay, what are we doing with this house? It's not just our home, it's an investment. Okay, we may not stay here 30 years. We may move for something, or we want to take our kids to here and live there. We don't know. So there has to be an end goal for the property. Is it going to turn into, in 20 years, it's going to turn into a rental property, then we can move here. And there has to be a strategy attached to a property, because you don't always stay in the same property. Okay. So do you really want to stay, or and consider this purchase for an extended length of time? Mortgages are 15 to 30 years. Do you want to stay here that long? So it's not the American dream. The American dream is owning something and being quality, but a home doesn't necessarily have to be for you. Like for me, I owned a house for my children to graduate, to have their own backyard first, to have big parties because our family's, middle size, not too big. But when everybody comes over, all the kids have their friends, so it becomes this big, gigantic thing. So I wanted to have that for them, and I did, and I had that for a very long time. And then I said, in 2013, I don't want to live taking care of a house anymore because I was getting older and I wasn't happy about shoveling snow and I wasn't happy about raking. So it switched for me. I wanted to have an apartment and be comfortable and pay that. So a home is got to be something that you got to think about. You got to make sure that you're looking at it from the perspective of your life, and make sure that you're ready to do that. It's an emotional readiness, because I've seen husbands and wives, they'll get divorced over building a house, and by the time the house is its first doorknob, they're in divorce court. So it's very emotional, and you have to be on the same page with whomever you're going in. You have to be on the same page on why we're getting it, how we're getting it, and when is it going to change being what we started at. Okay? So you want to begin to just, in your searches, you want to be able to begin exploring issues like the definition, like what is the definition of your ideal home? Is it a huge living room or small kitchen? Is it bedrooms upstairs as opposed to downstairs? Is it one level? Is it three levels? Do you want the laundry machine in your room, or downstairs in the basement, or in the cellar? Where do you want it? All those things have to play a big part on what you want, because there is a difference between what you want and what you need. So you may want to have a large kitchen, right? But you have a large family and you can only sit 4 when you have 6. So it's a want versus a need. You got to clearly define those. If you're going in, getting a mortgage with somebody, you have to clearly define what we want. I know that a couple of times, one of my clients would say to their wives, I don't care as long as I have a garage. You can have whatever else you want. I just want a garage because the garage is mine. So you know how men are. They want to have their own little place, and that's good for some people. So you want to have that clear line, and be able to define that. You want to make sure that about the debt responsibility, understanding that this is a big investment and it's very important, and who's going to handle the amount and how much the debt really is on the long term. Not just look at it like I'm paying $1,000 a month. Look at it, I'm paying $1,000 a month. I'm paying this amount for 12 months. I'm paying this amount for 6 years, 20 years, 30 years. You want to see how that plays out, because debt is a responsibility, and 30 years, that's 360 something months. No, it's not. It's more than that. 360 some. No, what is it per year? I forget. See, I'm bad at math. But you want to make sure that you can handle that debt, or you want to take that debt on for the length of the time, because it could change. Could be like, okay, we don't want to do this anymore. Let's double our payments and let's just do 15 years. You have to reevaluate that and come back to that so you can, see where you're going with it. It's all a strategy. So with a home buyer's checklist, I always have them have a checklist. Everyone that I take out, every one of my buyers, I take out and I said, here's a checklist. You need to do this before you even get started. So it helps you determine what type of house is right for you. And then all the things we just talked about, that's in the checklist. You want to make sure before you get started that your personal motivation for buying a home is the same across the board with whoever you are going into, or even you accept yourself. And It doesn't necessarily mean that everything is going to go perfectly, because this buying process is a system all by itself, and it's a long one. So it doesn't make it easy. So just so you could be aware of what it is that it takes to actually buy a home. So that's your mindset, okay? So let's see. I know buying a house sometimes is just so daunting, even for me. I've done it before, and it's just so daunting with all the different parts of it that are involved. Mostly, what's involved. Um, Everyone likes to get to the table. They like what's going to happen at the table, and it's so funny because I when I used to go to closings, I would be sitting on the side, most of the time, and I'm just sitting there. I have very little to do with the interactions of the at the table, closing table. But what's good is there's going to be a lawyer there. There's going to be a couple of lawyers, two lawyers. There's going to be a title company. There's going to be an underwriter sitting there. There's going to be a shuffling of papers, a lot of shuffling of papers and clearances. But most of the time, you're going to be sitting there as well. A lot of signing. So you make sure that your attorney that you're working with is going to be able to explain each piece of paper to you. Explain it like he explained it to a sixth grader, really, honestly, because you want to be able to understand it. Because the worst thing there is not to understand something and going through this big investment, and all of a sudden it's just you don't know it was in the paperwork and you didn't know. So that's the biggest part at the table, is to know what's going on. Okay, so step 2. That's when once you're approved for a mortgage, you meet with a loan officer, and you get an idea of what you can afford, and what's comfortable for you. Once you've done that, you met with them. They give you a piece of paper that says approved. You're approved for a mortgage, and that's when you start getting together your ideas. Who am I going to speak to? So you're going to talk to a professional. You're going to use a realtor that's going to show you the house, that's going to get the information for you. Most of the time, a realtor is really supposed to be a buyer's agency. I always worked from a buyer's agency point, because I worked with first-time home buyers that knew nothing. And for me, just to leave them out there and just like start, take this house, take that house, it was really important for me to teach them and educate them on the dynamics of buying a house. So I always worked as a buyer's agent. You need to start working with a realtor, because a lot of the information that you have heard, it's usually heard. It's not really researched. Very little is it researched. It's usually heard what happens and all these stories. It's important that you know that you have a professional that will be able to, if you're buying a house with squatters, you need to know what's the process for me to be working with this. I have to buy this house, but what happens to the squatters? Who gets those people out? You need to know that that person that's telling you the truth is really knowledgeable on working with first-time home buyers, if you want, working with second home buyers conventionally, or working with investors, that they have that experience, so that every deal is not going to be the same. So the realtor is always going to be the one that can kind of make those things happen. It has the connection to everybody, and be able to make things happen and change, because they have access to the seller, they have access to the selling agent, they have to the seller's attorney, they have access to their attorney, they have access to the broker who may know other people involved in the transaction. So it's very important that you choose a realtor who knows what they're doing in the home buying process, not in commercial, because commercial is totally different. You want to get a realtor who's has done some deals and has closed some deals in real estate and first time home buyers, because it makes a difference. And then you want to make sure that you share that valuable information about your approval, that you share that with the the realtor, because a lot of times properties will not be shown without an approval. So it doesn't make any sense that you start seeing houses without an approval, and then when you might like a house, and then you can't do anything because you have to do there's something else you have to do in the back end with the mortgage, the loan officer. You might have to give them some documents, and you're not approved yet, and then the house, you lose the house because someone else buys it. So you want to make sure that you have all your ducks in a row. That's my favorite thing. All your ducks in a row. You want to make sure. Okay. You want to know what type of house you want to see, and it's okay to say no. Say no, I don't want to see it. I just don't want to see it. If you have an idea of how you want, what type of house you want, you have to be honest with yourself, because if you take something you don't want, it's going to be like my friend who actually bought a house she didn't want to buy because she was and it's going to end up in the street, and she stayed boxed with all her things in a box for 2 years until she found another house that she fell in love with. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to live that way. You want to just be able to undertake and enjoy the house. Okay, so with a realtor, a licensed realtor, you want to work with one of those great people. There are some great ones, and there are some knowledgeable ones. So you want to be able to do that. Okay, so how do you choose a realtor? When buyers go out, they usually work with somebody either that they know or that's familiar with the area that they're searching in. You always want to go with somebody. If I don't know Nassau County like I should. Like I know the names of the places, but I don't know them all. Um, if I don't know the areas and I don't know a realtor in that area that can kind of navigate us so we can kind of broke with that, then it would behoove me to give you to someone that's in the area, because then I just kind of don't know what I'm doing, and it's better that you get a great home buying experience than me kind of like fluffing through things. So it's better to have a referral and send it to someone who knows the area, or somebody that you trust, and you know that they're going to tell you the honest truth, and look at areas that you don't even think of, because you might be looking at the cabinets and they look amazing, and then there's a big hole in the floor. So you want a realtor that's going to be able to be open with you, that you can trust, that you're comfortable with, and you don't have to always be like, I don't know if I like that person. You don't want to work with someone like that, because you'll end up not working with them once you find somebody that fits your criteria. So it's a fussy world in real estate. So you want impeccable references, and you want to see where their focus is. So a lot of times, realtors have in their mind what you want, but they don't have they have never heard what you want. So they always think that, oh, I know what they want. I know they want low taxes. Let them take. This is all you're going to get. But you want someone that's going to focus on you and what you want that suits your needs, and then can share with you. Well, remember, you wanted the kitchen is not as big as you wanted it, but you do have a den, or you do have a washroom, or a foyer that you can turn into something. So it's always, they know that you want certain things, and then they can actually put in something additional for you, okay, to be able to focus on you in your purchase. So what does a realtor really do? The realtor performs a number of duties on behalf of the entire deal. They take on a big responsibility. They explain the process of the buying process to you. They provide market information, like they'll tell you that if you pick a house, oh, it's 350,000, and he or she will tell you that's overpriced, because I know for sure this, and this is not going to happen. They will be able to explain to you that it's the market. This is something that you can't do. They might also tell you about looks great on the outside, but there's no kitchen in the inside. Is that proper? They'll tell you those things. So they explain it. They provide you market information. They set up viewing appointments, because they have relationships with different realtors and the selling agencies. They can kind of, navigate the whole transaction, helping you understand how to look for and be aware of looking for homes. A lot of times, when going out, we just look at anything that's available and we just go drive by. Oh, it's great. But there's in the background, you have to actually view the community altogether. So if you want, like we can tell you, we can actually send you to a site that's like e-neighborhoods that will actually show you what's in the neighborhood and the crime rate and this and that, all the information, the characteristics of that community so that you're aware. I mean, it could be that there's the house that you're looking at is in back of a big sewer, a big sump, that you don't want to live, or that it's by a landfill that you don't want to live by. So you have to, they will be always being able to have all that information and set those things up and know about the areas that you're looking in. They also provide input to the writing of the contracts. So when you find a house that you like, they actually put together the numbers, how much the house is, purchase price, your down payment, your good faith deposit, and how much the mortgage is going to be. When you're going to close, they actually put together and find out what lawyer you want to use, and all of that information they put together into a purchase or sales contract, and they fax it over to the selling agent, who the selling agent and or the seller will talk and say, yeah, I like this offer. They sign, send it back, and then we get everybody talking. So the realtor then helps put that information into a transaction. They actually set up inspections, because after that you would need an inspection to see how much the house is worth. And then if there's any, I'm sorry, that's the appraisal, that's last. You want to see if there's any foundational issues. So you're going to have an inspector go in, which is, the prices usually range from $550, I want to say, to like $900. Maybe there might be more, but that's those are my areas that I explain to the buyers. That's where they should be. And that person goes from the roof to the cellar. Everything in the house that they look at to see if there's termites, see if there's foundational issues, plumbing issues, sewer issues, the whole nine. If there's snakes in the walls, if the walls are really even have black mold in them, they're the ones that kind of find all those things out. After their inspection, they put it all together into a document that you can review, and you say, oh yeah, I'll deal with that, that's fine. Then it goes on from there. Or if there's issues, those issues are brought up to the seller and say, Mr. Seller or Mrs. Seller, this is what we have. We have a foundational crack, but we think that you should fix that, and then we'll continue on with the sale. What say you? And the seller just says, okay, this is the person that we're going to use. They get it done, and then it gets inspected again. It meets the code, fine. Then we put the deal together. That's how that works. They also take care of bug treatments, termite inspections. I what's the word? Termite inspections. And termite inspections, they actually do, make sure that all the wooded parts of the house do not have infestations. And they take care of that. If there's infestations of any type of bug or rodent, they actually take care of those as well. They don't, I'm sorry, I shouldn't be saying take care. They actually set up the appointment for those specialists to come in. Excuse me, they don't do that. So they call everybody. Okay, we're done with everything. Everything looks good. We put everything together. We want to set up a closing date. My buyer says they're ready on Tuesday, the 24th. Is that good for you? Yeah, it's good for us. Is that good for you? Yeah. Okay, the 24th. Pulls all of that together. They can communicate with the closing company. If there's an issue with a piece of paper, sometimes takes the closing forever because the client may not be able to locate it. We kind of make sure that we can shake it loose somehow because the closing has to happen. We make sure that the closing, that everything that you want when we walk through, there's also a walkthrough before we close. There's a walkthrough. So we check to see if everything was like when we first went in the house, or even better, hopefully. And we go in and we walk, and yes, everything's great. We sign a paper, everything's great. Then that's when the closing said, okay, we're done, we're good. Closing is going to be this day. And that's when we make sure everyone feels comfortable throughout the process. Everybody's okay. Is there any questions you have? And then closing day. Boom. So that's what the realtor does. So what does it cost for? Why is the realtor working with you? Because I said all the things that they do. And they are paid after closing, or at the closing table. That's why we're there after. Why did I say after? At the closing table. So we get paid during that time, and it comes out of the proceeds of the closing costs. Let's see. So I know that you all are pretty savvy on the market and what the market, kind of what the temperature is, when is it selling, when is it not. You can always tell by your area, whatever area you're interested in, if houses are going up for sale. And you can find that on the internet. So that's pretty easy. I've always worked in, when they say, oh, this is the buyer's market, this is the seller's market, they always say those things. And I always say, if somebody wants to buy a house, they really don't care. It just doesn't fathom to them to go buy what someone else says about the market or whatever. I see that investors, the investors have no market. So like this buyers, sellers, they're not in there. Investors want to get low and get something very cheap and move on and flip that over. So they're not in either one of those sections, but they still buy houses during the entire market, whether it be buyers or sellers, they still are buying properties. So it just depends on your mindset and what you're looking for, what area you're looking for. And just how good your negotiation skills, no matter what season it is, new season, whatever, no matter what market it is, buyers or sellers, no matter what. So you want to be able to do that. I'm sure you can explore those opportunities for homes of different types. Now, the leading into that, when we say homes of different types for sale, we talk about foreclosures, talk about pre-foreclosures, we talk about short sales, we talk about auctions, we talk about bank owned, and we talk about REOs. So we hear those words all floating around. And some might ask, what are short sales? Because we hear all about short sales, short sales. Short sales are a property that is what we call upside down in pre-foreclosure, okay, or in foreclosure. And it's upside down, and the value of the house is more, the sum that is owed is more than what the market can bear. So the realtor, in their expertise of short sales, will petition the bank with documents saying, this is what the house should sell for. Should we get you a buyer, what would you sell the house for? They send the information about the CMA, which is all of the area dynamics of the same exact house. They send that, and they send that letter. The bank then returns. Now, this is all orchestrated by the seller, because the seller, by right, still has ownership of the property. So the seller and the agent are working together for the short sale. So the bank will send them back, yes, we want to sell for 200 as opposed to 400. You get us an offer for 200, we'll sell. So that's what a short sale is. It's a possibility if they just submitted the information, and if they got an approval back and it's okay that the sale price is 200 as opposed to 400, then that's different. then the sale will go smoothly. When the process of them vacillating, the short sale will, that's a problem. So short sales take a little bit of time, a lot more time to kind of negotiate. So unless that the short sale has been approved by the bank, you won't see it on, for sale. You won't see it for sale, and you shouldn't get involved with a house that's has not had an approved short sale number by the bank. And then you have bank-owned properties that are actually foreclosed, and the ownership rights have left the seller and now went back to the bank that actually mortgaged the property. Now, they have the rights to assign a realtor. They have a right to put the house up for auction. They have all rights to they take care of the property. Some do and some don't. But they are invested in the investment so that they can actually resell it and get some of the money back, if not all. Those are the bank-owned properties. The larger, agencies like HUD actually takes back a lot of mortgages, and commercial lending institutions, Chase Bank, Bank of America, those types of banks. Those are the bigger banks. They actually have a lot more. Citibank, they actually have a lot more larger property, what they call reals. So you have that. Now, you have the words move in and ready and fixer uppers. Move in ready and fixer uppers. Fixer uppers are just what they are. There's heat. There is say use of a bathroom. There might be two bathrooms, but one is kind of kaput. And then there might be a kitchen, but the cabinet's not great. Those are fixer uppers. And move-in ready is just what it is. It's nothing has to be painted, nothing has to be done, just cleaned up. If it's a resale or if it's brand new, just dust it a little bit. So move-in ready versus fixer uppers. What is, again, we go back to the mindset of you. What is it that you really want to do? Are you personalizing this home to make it feel like home before you get in there, or are you just making it nice for you to live because your ultimate goal is to move on and move somewhere else? What are you doing? What that goes back to your mindset. Then you also have to look at how much you're going to spend in time and in money on this project. If you want to fix it up, or how much money do you have in addition to not just your mortgage, but in addition, you have set aside that if I get this house that doesn't have a kitchen, I know I have $20,000 to do what I need to do. Does that fit into that, choice that you made or your decision that you made? Does that fit in there or not? So, move in ready and fixer uppers. Those are two different things. New constructions versus resales. So new constructions are just what they are. When you enter the deal, there's a plan, and the plan is, and the only thing you know where the property is going is on what street, and you have you have a blueprint of it, and you have what every room size is going to be, and you get to pick the colors, get to pick carpet, flooring, and boom, and you move in. So that's the extent of your new construction, feel. A lot of people want to have that don't want to have a lot of work done, and conventionally, not conventionally, but they're more modern and they're not nostalgic about a house. And then there are some with the resales. They're nostalgic about a Victorian. They're nostalgic a ranch, a high ranch, a raised ranch. They're nostalgic about it. Houses that are built in 1900s versus 2020. So there's a big difference. There's a big, what do you want? New construction versus resale. Again, it goes right back to what you really want and your strategical plan of what you really want in this ownership. Do you want a new construction because there's air conditioning and HVAC system. You know what I'm saying? Do you want that? Or do you want an older house that has older radiator systems that make it vintage for you, and you can deal with a fan in the summertime? Just depends on what you're looking for. And then also the resale value afterwards. With a newer house, your value goes down, and with the resale, it goes up depending on what you add to it, what features you add. You know, you can add a pool that actually raises the house. You know, all of those things kind of happen. Okay, so now that we've got a lot of definitions, it's 7:17. Got a lot of definitions out of the way. I know I've been talking for a bit. I'm trying to get everything in because it is a long process, but I will have like a question and answer session if you'd like. At the end, is now 46 minutes in and 7:17. Does anybody have any questions on any of this that we just went over? Is there everything clear? Because it's kind of, you know, it's a more in-depth process than I know you're normally used to listening to. Okay, so let's move on. Now, finding the perfect home. Those that have children usually always ask me this question: what school district? Or I want this type of school district. So the realtor will always tell them to please look on the e-neighborhoods, you know, and to look at the values of the house, or they will tell them to go to Google and Google the house from the front to the back, and you'll actually have a layout and information about the properties and the area, the community, what the taxes normally are. You have all that information at your fingertips. So you want to make sure, if school matters to you, that you're going to be able to, that's what matters to me, you know, regardless if I'm next to a sump, regardless if my house is on a busy street, regardless if I'm near, crime, school district matters to me. If your neighborhood matters, I want a neighborhood with kids in it. I want a neighborhood that's got, like, you know, the different types of houses, not just the same. I want a neighborhood near a park. You will always, you know, those are some things you have to consider finding the perfect home. So safety matters. Some of my buyers, they actually ask, how safe is the neighborhood? I, you know, by law cannot say anything about that. I can just direct them where they can find the information. All right. So safety matters in finding the perfect home. Looking at resale potential, like if you're looking at something that's not that great looking, but if you add little by little into it, it can actually grow in resale value. That's something you have to look at for the perfect home. A lot of my buyers don't see the value in a big living room or a fireplace until they go and buy something that doesn't have a fireplace, and they say, man, I should have took that fireplace when it was offered to me in the other home. So those are little things that you have to remember. What's going to retain the value? What's going to keep it, make it better when you make your money back on this house, no matter what point, midway or to the end, what is going to bring you value? You don't want to ever think about bringing it down, because it is a process. It's an investment of your life. It's really an investment. When you start searching for homes, be dizzy. Let me just tell you, you will see about 50 places, and all of them will start blurring together. But if you have a very smart realtor, they will show you just 5. And if you don't like those 5, you can go out and look around. And by then you'd be like, oh, I'll call her up. I went to open house and I saw this. And usually that's how it works, you know. But those that are looking for homes, they usually have an idea of what they want. And they always bring their notebook, They're not afraid to ask questions. They view multiple homes without the realtor so they can see how things look. They may go to an open house of sorts. And then when they really, really like something, they view it twice, and they start to get emotionally attached. So, when you're searching for a house, don't go in with that aspect. Don't fall in love right away, because it could be that you can't get the house. So you want to keep in mind your focus about what it is, what's important for you. What's your why that you move and you want to get this house? What's your why? You know. So what not to do? You should never take pictures without permission, because there's a stipulation with the realtors that they are to take the pictures. So you never take them without permission. Usually there's pictures there, via flyer or online. So you never want to take pictures because, snap it inside shots, especially if there's someone occupying, is it's probably not, doesn't have owner's permission, so it's bad etiquette. Don't do it. Um, Looking where you're not interested, don't do that. If you're not interested in the area, don't look in there, because you're not going to be happy. Again, you're going to be like my friend with all the boxes sitting there for years until you decide to move. So don't look at properties in other areas that you don't want to be in, and then you begin to be desperate, and then you don't want to be there. Okay, you don't want to look at properties outside your price range. You have a price range, you stay in there. If you have a tax frame that you have to be in, you can't go over 9,000. You want to stay in that, because the minute that you get outside of that, then oh boy, then you see something that's over your price range, you can't afford it, and you fall in love with it. I've seen it a lot. So you always want to stay in your price range when you're viewing properties. But making an offer is step 5. You're making an offer. You find the house you like. It's over. I don't want to see any other properties. There's nobody that has an offer on it. Put an offer in, and you decide on what the price is. If the price is 300,000, I wouldn't dare insult the owner and say 100,000. If it's, you go 20 to 30,000 lower, and you may have some play in there somewhere, but leave the negotiating to your professional, because you can say 275, and he or she knows it's not going to go. It's going to go closer to the asking price, and they'll tell you if they really are professionals. They'll say, it's not, you're putting it too low. And if you decide to put it low and you tell them, yeah, they'll do it for you, but you've lost out. You lost time in negotiations, and you may lose the deal. So you always want to decide on the price and use your professional's opinion, and use a little bit of common sense. Okay. So like I told you, the professional is a real create the contract, which is sales agreement, and there may be times that there'll be a counter offer. So if you put an offer for 30,000 less, they may come back and this counter offer you at 10,000 more. So it's up to you to say, yeah, okay, let's calculate that and see if we're in the right financial guidelines. If we could do that, that's great. We can go up to that. If not, we're going to have to decline and look at another house. So you always want to be able to be flexible enough that your contract is accepted on the first time with the professional's opinion, or if there's a counter offer, you want to come back and have a feasible offer in between your amount that you are allowed through your mortgage approval. Okay, step 6 is closing on your home, the timeline. So the process of going to making an offer to close is when you went to go to the closing. Excuse me. There are a number of factors, including finances, home inspections, like I explained, the completion of the necessary repairs, if there was a repair that needed to be done, and creating of the abstract and more. Okay, the abstract is, ugh, it's something that the underwriters and all of them do. So I tend to let them do that. And so while many homes usually close within 30 days of the final offer, it can be less or it can be more, depending on how quickly the buyer provides all the information to the loan officer, who's actually being asked for the information from the underwriter. So they may need your W-2s, your tax returns, any information about your income, your 203, no 203K, 501K, and then all those things they're going to ask you for. So it depends on how quickly those documents are obtained. And you usually get a list, which the real estate professional will give to you, of what you're going to need for the loan officer. So you go from pre-approval to a commitment. Okay. So you want to go from there really quickly for that to happen. It usually takes 45 days, 45 to 60 days on Long Island. I don't know why. Every other place is like 30 to 45 days. I don't know why. So I explained to you about the inspection. I explained to you about the repairs, and then getting your finances in order. Everything that was asked about from the loan officer, you should give it to them. Okay. So the abstract has to do with everyone's financial background. So that includes you, seller, and actually the house. So it actually tells them about any infractions, liens, issues that you don't even know. Sometimes you don't even know yourself that they're on you. So it doesn't necessarily have to be on your credit report. It could be on your name. It could be a judgment at the court that you have no idea about for $50. You have no idea. This is what the abstract does. Pulls all that together, and then it says, okay, there's a lien on that property. We need to talk to this lien holder and let them put it in their insurance, and we sell the house. And they don't come after you. So they get rid of the liens. They talk to you about your credit problems. If you have some, they talk to the owner. And that's how the abstract is put together. So once that abstract is all put together and all of that is A-OK, the closing is set. So you prepare for the closing. And after all the hurdles are addressed, the contracts move to closing. This is the appointment with all the paperwork, exchange of money, obtain the keys to the property. Boom, over. So the buyer needs to bring to the closing a cashier's check for the part that you owe, whether it be closing or down payment. It's usually is in the beginning of the contract and it's held in escrow. But any absorbed costs like closing costs that you owe, anything like that. The lawyer will tell you this is what you have to bring a cashier's check in the amount of, and who to bring it to separately, and then your driver's license and your social security card. That's what you bring to the table, proving that you are the person that's buying the house. So uncomplicated, without any issues, without a kinfolk coming in the door saying, I claim to this house because I'm the third cousin of the seller. Without any of that, it takes about an hour to complete. I told you that the real estate professionals, on both sides, seller and buyer, will be attending the meeting. The seller's representative, your representative, which is your lawyers, they will be there. And the lien holder and underwriters, they will be there. And so once all the final paperwork is signed, sealed, and delivered, the buyer can take possession of the home. That's by the keys and by the deed. And then the contract's signed, they get copies, and everyone shakes, and you're out of the closing. Simple as that. So, breaking it down, now me hearing it myself, it is a long process. I see where everybody kind of gets busy. It is a long process. So, that is the home buying process. And I can give you a little bit of insight on what the market is going to bear right now. And the market's really going to be, it's going to be important for us to, if we want to buy, this is the kind of the time to do it. I suggest that for a lot of families who are seeking properties on their own, to get involved in real estate, because the interest rate is going to be low, and there's going to be a lot of provisions for being involved in real estate, coming down from the government. But I want to thank you all for being here. It's 7:31 and I finished really quick. That is the home buying process. If you have any questions, feel free to give me a call. My number, I'm still doing real estate. I do it in the evenings, and on weekends. So, if you're interested in proceeding with the home buying process, you can reach me at 631-772-9098. I'd be more than happy to assist you in your buying process. This is Edna White signing off with Home Buying 101.